Well, guys, we got some more base Sweden back again, with a Swedish academic coming out calling out this lunacy that runs around screaming mass migration is an economic benefit for Sweden and any other country in general. Of course, we all knew this in the UK, and I expect the average everyday Swede also knows it. France are certainly experiencing diversity being its strength in recent times, so I bet the people there feel the same as we do. Of course, the left-wing snivelling shitweasels run around talking crap consistently about mass migration being a benefit to many countries that are forced into it by their piss-poor puppet leaders, completely ignoring every single negative aspect of mass migration, which is almost everything when you consider the people being ferried into Europe on a daily basis are not exactly top of the pile, are they? It's not like we're getting the top minds from any given country, and to be honest, that wouldn't matter anyway. You will eventually reach a point where even the best minds influx in a given country will become a massive negative to them. It would not even take long to become a negative in that situation either, considering countries often struggle to employ all of their own citizens consistently. But what makes this current influx so bad is the clear and obvious fact it seems those arriving are scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to education, and of course the ability to speak English, French or Swedish, as this article points out. It headlines Swedish academic rejects alleged economic benefits of mass migration. Swedish professor of economics Matt Hammarstad has rejected claims that mass migration can be economically beneficial over the long term, citing problems of integration. And of course the fact that this mass migration consists of like 99.9% young men. Professor Hammarstad said the integration failures, particularly of asylum seekers, have contributed to a much higher unemployment rate among migrants over the long term. In an article for the Swedish publication Dagens Industry, Hammarstad said the lack of integration of foreign-born people into the labour market is well documented, and the situation has remained largely unchanged in recent decades. And let me tell you, it will remain the same in the future because these people have no interest in integrating into these countries. That we already know for sure. He added every year the public sector redistributes resources from domestic born to foreign born, and the long time it takes for refugee immigrants and their relatives to establish themselves in the labour market means that the refugee immigration entails a cost to public finances, even long after the refugees have immigrated to Sweden, which, let's be honest, is a given at this point and something that is kind of obvious to anyone who looks at it objectively. Of course, left-wing shitweasels like Owen Jones or Rash Sakar are going to be running around screaming that this is all fake news and apparently it's such a benefit to us, but obviously we know that's a load of bollocks, and so do people in Sweden, it seems. The professor gave an example of unemployment rates for African and Asian immigrants across nearly a decade, writing, for people born in Africa and Asia aged 15 to 75, unemployment in 2010 was 26% and 24% respectively. In 2019, the unemployment rate in these groups was almost exactly the same levels, 26% and 22% respectively. So there, very little change, or in one case, no change at all. But then again, this is not very surprising to us. It is surprising that people are actually saying it in the academic world though. Goes on, thus the share of unemployed in these groups remains largely unchanged during a period when the groups have almost doubled in size. This development of recent decades thus means that the group of unemployed in Sweden is increasingly made up of people born in countries outside of Europe, he added. According to the professor, a long-time economic benefit from mass migration can only be seen where there is successful integration, so obviously fucking nowhere. Instead, the problems risk worsening in the long term as new people are constantly to be integrated and unemployment in the growing groups remains largely unchanged, he said. That Swedish academic joined several others over the years who have challenged the idea that mass migration is an economic positive for countries receiving migrants. In 2016, a study from the Institute of Employment Research in Nuremberg, Germany found that language barriers and lack of qualifications among migrants led to a higher overall unemployment rate and lower tax revenue in the long term, which obviously absolutely shits all over everything that Labour and the left-wing media say in relation to immigrants and how they benefit the UK or any other country in general. And of course, these people have not factored in all of the crimes that are committed by migrants over in Sweden and indeed over in the UK. If you factor that into the economic benefits or lack of them when it comes to mass migration, I'm pretty sure it would be even dire for the left-wing shitweasels agenda here. The French Parliament released a similar study in January which was slightly more optimistic, saying mass migration was a net neutral for the economy but did not boost boost growth. That report noted that 43%, nearly half of migrants coming to France, had no school diploma or college education, which likely means they do not even speak the native language in that country, as we have seen over here many times. Now obviously this was just talking about the economic effects of mass migration, like I said, which is only one angle. You have the social, cultural and every other angle that you can possibly think of that is obviously affected by mass migration. So in the end, all you realistically need to know is mass migration is a clusterfuck no matter where it's going on and where the people are coming from. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're getting 1 million Albert Einsteins into the country, you won't be able to employ them all and the people here will suffer, both the people born here and the immigrants that have already been let in. This is obviously common fucking sense. But as we all know, governments don't give a shit about common sense. They have their agendas and they will continue to push them regardless.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going and we are glad to be going. We're off.